If you want to make more money, just add more value in life. If you want to make more money, just be a bigger asset to the people that you are serving in life. And money is a byproduct. Today's landscape is so dynamic that something's new every single day, right? With AI and the technology and everywhere we're going, it's almost a game. When Jobs went to market, he went 0 defections. When Jobs went to market with a product, he wanted 0 defections. But in R&D and research and development phase, he wanted as many defections and as many possible things that could go wrong in that. That's where we're at right now with AI.
Chad, good morning. Welcome to the Grapple and Growth podcast.
Morning. Good to be here, Joe.
I'm really curious. What does growth look like to you?
I think growth is a constant. I think business and life is dynamic. And I think growth means that you're always working towards your definition of success, whatever that definition looks like, right? And I think that's the key thing, is that the first thing about growth is really defining it. Defining what does growth mean for you. I mean, my definition of success is not going to motivate you to do anything. Your definition isn't going to motivate me. So it's just all about defining growth and then working towards that growth. I also think growth is something that should not be tied to happiness. I think that's where anxiety and stress comes in. So what I mean by that is I think that there's an opportunity, and Vishen Lakhiani talks about this, is there's an opportunity to create what he defines as flow. And flow means that being happy in the current moment, but also having a vision for your future. A lot of times when you're not happy in the current moment and and you have no vision for your future, you're in a downward spiral. That's sort of depression, right? You're not happy. You don't know where the hell you're going. And so that's depression. Then some people are not happy currently, but they're tying their happiness to the future vision. So when I do X or when I get Y, I will be happy. And that's stress and anxiety, because you're always living to the next. So when you grow into the next kind of phase and you're still not satisfied because now you're reaching to the next thing. So, and then there's, I'm currently happy, but I have no vision for the future. That's sort of stagnation, right? So I'm currently happy, but I have no vision for the future because life changes. The world changes around us. As we know right now, it's changing rapidly with technology and everything that's happening in the world. And then there's flow, which is flow means being currently happy, but having a vision that's not tied to happiness, but things that you're striving for in that dynamic, ongoing journey of life. I know that's a long answer to growth, but that's kind of my definition of growth. So that's what I think about every day, is what am I doing to be grateful for what I have right now, but also striving for things that will continue to help me move in a direction that defines what success means to me.
Mm-hmm. That's a very holistic answer. Right now in your day-to-day, how do you best achieve flow?
I best achieve flow by routine. Routine is one of my biggest strengths and my biggest anchor points. So my routine is, I have some non-negotiables every single day, Joe. Non-negotiables that have to show up in my life. I'm also very crystal clear about what's important to me and what I value. And I'm not a perfect person. I have a lot of room for improvement. But I strive to live into those non-negotiables and what's important to me and what I value. And that routine allows me to audit how I'm doing, make mid-course adjustments where necessary, praise the things that are working and moving in the right direction. So routine for me on a daily basis is vital to my continued growth pattern.
And what do those non-negotiables look like? And what does the routine look like as well?
Yeah, so I think that everybody has kind of what I define as kind of green time and red time. Which green time is when you're maximizing and you can have the highest level of efficiency, effectiveness, and output. And then there's red time, and those some of the things where maybe you're not as on top of your game. So, and I don't know when. It's not about when me defining somebody's green time. It's about understanding when yours is. I have people on my team that they work best between like 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. right? And my green time is about 4 to 8 in the morning. I get more done between 4 and 8 in the morning than I do the rest of the day. I think I get more done between 4 and 8 than most people do in a week, but that's just my green time. So my 4 to 8 typically looks like this. There's non-negotiables in there. And again, this is just me. It's not saying it's right for everybody else, but I get up and I do between 45 minutes and 2 hours worth of work. I have 2 cups of coffee. I drink my hydrated water. I just kind of really get caught up from the day, or get caught up for the day, or get caught up from the day prior. So that's 45 minutes to 2 hours. There's a non-negotiable of that I always get some sort of physical exercise in, or movement that could look a myriad of different ways. But the key is that I'm getting movement in. And then there's a mental, emotional, spiritual meditation part, prayer type of part for me. And then I spend, when I'm at home, I always spend time with my family. And then I obviously get in the shower and get ready, and then my day starts. That if you, and even when I'm on the road with my family, I get up 2 hours before everybody else. I do those routines. It just helps me center for the day and helps me really set myself up for the highest probability of success. And then my day, it can go a myriad of different directions with the business. But typically at the end of the day, I spend about 15 minutes and I just do an audit. Every morning I create what I call a 3-pack, which is my 3-pack is what are the 3 things that if I get done today, big or small, would be considered a productive day. And I don't win every day, but I audit. So if I get those 3 things done, because a lot of times the day just takes over, right? You get very reactive when the day takes over, and some people will end the day and go, what the hell did I do today? Like, I know I did something, but I really can't define it. So I try to define it every single morning. And then I look back and I audit and I say, okay, was that a successful day or not? And it's not about an indictment if it wasn't. It's just, what do I need to shift tomorrow to set myself up for a higher probability of success? Those are some of the non-negotiables that show up on the daily that allow me to, continuously move in a direction, again, that's right for me.
If you have a day that goes completely off kill, let's just say for whatever reason, if this has happened, you don't wake up on time, nothing lines up, how do you look at auditing that, and how do you get yourself back on kill? Because I know that's something that I've experienced and suffered from in doses, in times where you can look at seasons in your life and you can see yourself working really well, but then equally you see that you drop off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, number one is I give myself grace because I think we're all human. And I think that, there are just times where you're not at your best, or I'm not at my best. Let me put it that way. And there are times that maybe I just need a reset. Maybe I need a down day. I don't allow it to compound, but maybe there are times where I just need to potentially just check out of everything. And that's, that could be my business, that could be my family. And it's not about me trying to be selfish. I don't think it's about me saying, what do I need in that moment to potentially fill my tank? So when I'm showing up, I'm showing up at my best. Because when I'm not at my best, I'm not at my best, right? And so that might be one. Another one might just be that maybe there was just a lot of fires that day. Maybe there were just a lot of things that I didn't anticipate that happened in that day. So I also give myself grace. I think that those things happen, and I think you have to ride the waves. But as you mentioned, there are chapters, and sometimes if those days turn into potentially, multiple days or weeks, then I have to look at my habits, and I have to look at my activities, and I have to look at, what is it that I need to shift, or maybe it's a mindset shift, maybe it's an activity shift, maybe it's just a kick myself in the ass type of shift, whatever it is that might be, to get back on track to win the game long term. I always say that 70% implementation of a plan is better than 100% implementation of no plan. So I try to have a plan, and if I can bat, 70% of the time I'm getting it done, I think we're winning the game.
Amazing. In the last 20, 25 years, running multiple businesses, have you had any periods where you've got to a point mentally where you've just thought, actually, you know what, this isn't worth running anymore, I just want to pack this all in? Have you had any of those prolonged periods where maybe the internal alignment isn't there, and then the external isn't shaping up, and you're just looking at it and you're just thinking, what is the point of all of this?
All the time. There's a guy out in Phoenix. I can't remember. Joe Polish is his name. He runs a organization called Genius Network, and I think it's a 100,000K club. I've been a part of that mastermind a couple times. He has he has a big conference room, and he has state of the art stuff, but he has in his conference room like the mindset of an entrepreneur. And it's like, oh yeah, oh shit, 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 oh shit. Oh yeah. So there's always these mental ups and downs, right? And
Uh-huh.
I think that I have those moments a lot. Like I sometimes think, it'd be easier just to go out and get a 9 to 5. It would be easier just to maybe pare back and do my, just kind of get rid of all my employees and get rid of all the people that work on our projects and just pare it back down to me. It might be easier just to maybe sell this thing off or just shut this thing down. I go through those moments constantly, and I just think for me, it's just a way to manage the peaks and valleys of the business. And sometimes the business or businesses are going very, very well, Joe. I mean, there's nothing to really even, be down about or have a valley, but I still have those moments of like, what is it? What am I doing? What's it worth? Why am I out there doing this type of stuff? And I've built a business that is, I have an amazing team. It's pretty self-sustaining. I don't necessarily have to put a lot of energy and effort. I got good people in place, but I question it all the time. I have over the past 20, 25 years. And when I do that, obviously, I try to reset, I try to reimagine, refocus, make sure my vision's aligned, and make mid-course adjustments where necessary. I've gotten out of businesses. I've gotten out of partnerships because they just ended up long-term probably wasn't the best fit for me.
Mm-hmm. And at this present moment, what keeps you fueled and aligned towards business right now? What is the having all of these doubts, having the yeah, everything's working, then oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. What's the thing internally that gets you to realign and say, actually, this is worth everything I'm doing?
I think for me, and it's changed over my career, but I think for me, having real clarity around what I call my MTP, which is my massive transformational purpose. My massive transformational purpose now is very clear for me. It's impact. I want to make the biggest impact and the biggest splash I can on the world, whether that's personally, whether that's professionally. So how do I make an impact on the clients that work with us? How do I make an impact on this audience? How do I make an impact on my team? How do I make an impact on my kids? How do I make an impact on my wife? How do I make an impact on my friends? And so that's what fuels me. I used to be driven by money. It used to be a financial thing. But what I found, and again, this is just me, what I found is that when I chased money, money eluded me. And then somebody helped me understand that, if you want to make more money, just add more value in life. If you want to make more money, just be a bigger asset to the people that you are serving in life. And money is a byproduct, and it just tends to show up. I mean, yes, I am financially very successful, and I'm blessed to be that way. But when I shifted from trying to chase money to then trying to just all I wanted to do was add value and impact, it was amazing how financially the rewards just came in. So that's what fuels me. And when I get off center, I always what I call center the needle. I always come back to that. That's what continues to fuel me and drive me. That's one. The second thing is today's landscape is so dynamic that something's new every single day, right? With AI and the technology and everywhere we're going, it's almost a game. It's like, how can I leverage what's out there and how can I potentially stay ahead of it? That helps not only myself and our organization, but also how can I be an asset and add value to our clients? Because when I talk to a lot of people about AI, we're just scratching the surface with it, Joe, but I think we're even ahead of the game. I think some people are still fighting it. Some people, maybe they're scared of it. Maybe it's an unknown. We're just getting curious with it. And we're just trying to understand how can we leverage it in a way that helps us drive the vision and what we're trying to accomplish with the business.
Before we get onto AI,
Mm-hmm.
when did the change happen where you went from being focused on money to providing value?
I think I don't know exactly if there was like a moment in time. I just think there was a time in the business where I was just frustrated because I was doing a lot of things out of what I would call desperation versus passion. And I think I honestly believe
What
that
are
the law of
examples of
attraction.
that, if you could
So
elaborate?
so so desperation means I was maybe saying yes to things because I needed the money, or maybe saying yes to things because it was financially rewarding, but it wasn't fulfilling. It maybe got off course. I still tend to do. I try to corral myself, but as an entrepreneur, I've chased a lot of shiny objects. Like, here's the next best thing. Let's go do this. And I really kind of moved away from my core purpose of what I was trying to accomplish. So desperation means you're saying yes to things that may or may not fit into your core business principles, but maybe it paid the bills, or maybe it was money, or maybe there was an opportunity to make more money. And so that's kind of desperation. Passion means you're mission driven. You know why you're doing things. You know why you show up. And what I found is when I was more positioned at a passion, again, the byproduct of it is I just kind of kept winning financially. So I don't know if there was a moment in time, but I just know too that once I began to say yes to the things that were right for me, and even say no to the things that didn't make sense. I always say you can be on the right road, but maybe be going the wrong way. And so, like, for example, if my vision is to head east for the sake of conversation, I know that if I'm going west, I'm going in the wrong way. And I used to say yes to all that because maybe it was more financially rewarding, but it was never really kind of a strong foundation. So when I made that shift, again, I believe the law of attraction works 100% of the time. I really believe that. I believe that if you think good, and again, I'm not just saying about like a woo-woo type of thing, but a lot of people say, that shit doesn't work. Well, you prove yourself right every time, right? Like, of course it doesn't work. Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So whatever. And so I just believe that I finally got really serious about my massive transformational purpose. I got serious about keeping the integrity of that and staying the course of that. And then everything else just fell in place.
I think the reason why I ask is selfishly, as a younger, less seasoned entrepreneur as yourself, but someone who is consistently looking for self-improvement, personal development, even doing this podcast, it's something that I can get a lot of context from people from. Listening to that is something that I feel I've gone through a smaller dose of that transformation, moving from naturally as an entrepreneur, you typically, if you're a man and whoever you are, in your early 20s, you start a business, it's because you want to make more money than you would make in a normal job, which I think is completely fine. And that's how value is created. Is if people aren't driven, then people won't be creating more and more and better value for society. But what I've seen within my own business, our retention rate as a business is massively skyrocketed because I've really made a mental shift, and it probably happened in the last 2 years, of focusing massively first on how do we create as much impact and value for our clients as possible, and possibly before. And as you mentioned, shiny objects or getting dissuaded or sidetracked from the goal. But when it comes down to what our clients need, we always try to go above and beyond. And maybe typically where we might have said, well, that's not in our remit, or that's not what we've agreed, we look at what low-hanging fruits we might be able to help people with that actually make a big impact. Because a lot of people want to feel heard, they want communication, and arching that back into, maybe it makes it less profitable or harder for us, but in the long run, that means that we're doing the best service for our clients. And I think for me, where I'm at in my journey, moving away from money to value, that's the first low-hanging fruit. And then hopefully further down the line, that will look into a more communicative thought process, whereby I'm doing this with my family and then local communities, and maybe it's volunteering work, maybe it's working on a board, helping where I can best serve. So I appreciate the words that you shared there. If you could go back in time now a little bit, what advice would you give to 20-year-old Chad?
Well, a couple of things. I would definitely challenge 20-year-old Chad to be more bold. And what I mean by that is take more risk. I think that I've played the long game well, and it served me well in all areas of my life. But I believe that there were opportunities where I could have taken some risk and potentially been more bold. Maybe that was a business move. Maybe that was a personal move. So that's one thing I would say. The second thing I would say is don't limit yourself. I think I would go back, and I had a chance. My mom owned a travel agency when I was young, and I had a chance to kind of travel the globe. But I also, maybe said no to some of the things that I wish I would have. I want to always look back and say it was a hell of a ride, not I wish I would have. And there were moments that 20-year-old Chad didn't make that I'm kind of looking back going, gosh, I wish I would have. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing I would say is really grasp the network and absorb as much as you can from people who have already chopped down the trees, warmed the fires, I always say that I'm warming my hands at fires I did not build. I'm walking down paths of trees I did not chop down. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. And I think that I think I did that well, but I would challenge myself to do it even more, not to manipulate or leverage or take advantage of, but people have already kind of paved the way. I don't need to reinvent it. I just have to learn from other people's successes and other people's failures versus maybe hitting my head against the wall, if somebody's already done it and found a different way. That's what I would say.
So I'm super curious. The first 2 points I loved, but something that really intrigued me based on the third point you mentioned about standing on the shoulders of giants. We know that you were mentored when you were 17, 18 by Zig Ziglar, who is arguably one of the most famous, notable sales trainers, influencers out there. Based on the experience there, you were with him for a good few years. What key lessons did you learn from him, and what values did he instill to you that you carry into business today in life?
Yeah, I had a chance to meet Zig when I was 14. My dad was sharing the stage with him in Chicago I'll never forget it, was at the Rosemont Horizon. It's now called the Donnelly Stevenson Center, right by the airport, and right by O'Hare. And I went backstage and I met Zig and I said, Dad, I don't know why. I was 14. I said, Dad, this is what I want to do with my life. And so my dad said, you're 14. Why don't you think about it for a little bit? And so I thought about it and I said, this is what I wanted to do. So I had a chance to, be between 14 and 20 to be mentored under Zig. And I think the biggest lessons were it really, and it still rings true today, business and life and impact and the things that you do, it comes down to people, right? I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm not the most intelligent, but if I can figure out a way to work with, not manipulate, but work with people, it opens a lot of doors. Zig has a quote that says, you build people and then people build the organization. You don't build an organization, you build the people build the organization. And so even in sales, right? How do you connect with people and not try to convince them, but help them convince themselves that what you're offering is going to be a value add to them? So it's just about positioning. It's about understanding people. It's about flexing and working with people. And it's also about kind of walking with them, not necessarily pushing against them. I learned a lot as I kind of studied and worked and had a chance to be mentored. But those were the things that really, I'm telling you, Joe, that one core element that I took away, that if I could just understand and learn how to work with people in a way that is a win-win, not a zero-sum game where you win and I lose, or I win and you lose, a win-win situation, it opens up so many doors and so many avenues that you just kind of create your future and then you walk into it. That's probably the biggest takeaway that I got, having a chance to experience that.
So a question onto that point, do you feel that people engineer an environment where they're not creating win-win situations and scenarios and they're thinking more selfishly?
Yeah, I do. And I don't think there are some bad people out there, manipulative people. But I try to assume positive intent for the most part. So I think it's unconscious. I think, the CIA did a study that talks about perception versus perspective. It's an interesting study. And the study says that if you can tap into perspective, you have a better opportunity of learning and understanding people. They say perception, which they say 95 to 98% of people live in perception, which is the way I see the world, right? And so the way I act and the way I judge other people, and I judge you based on my expectations. I judge you on the way I think should happen. Perspective is truly trying to see it from the other side. CIA used it for like negotiation and try and how to penetrate the enemy and things like that. But it's a broader thing than that. It's like, how do I get perspective and truly try to understand other people? I think most people truly believe the world, and again, this is unconscious. This is not an indictment. This is not a negative. I think that unconsciously, we truly believe that the world revolves around us. And I'll give you a couple examples. A lot of times we judge other people based on character, but we judge ourselves based on circumstance. For example, when, I'm in traffic and I'm trying to get somewhere and somebody cuts me off, I say that person is a an asshole or whatever as I say, right? I judge them on their character. If I cut somebody off in traffic, I judge it on circumstance. Like, oh, I know I'm late for a meeting. Oh, I know I got to go pick up my kids. Oh, I know, right? So it's amazing how I can do the exact same thing, but I judge myself based on the circumstance. I never, when you cut me off in traffic, I never go, Joe's probably late for a meeting or Joe's probably running. I
That's
never
so
do that.
fascinating, and it's such a it's one of those things that makes you click, and it's like
Yeah.
And there's to your point, there was a video of street interview going on. One guy's recording, there's an interview, and a guy just walks straight past, and the guy's like, oh, "That guy's an arse," and then the guy who's being interviewed, he just rambles, and he says, "No, he's not. He's going about his day. He's focused on his life.
Right.
He's not thinking that there's a recording going on. He's just so insulated. He's looking straight down here. When we're looking here, we're just seeing a different perspective, and he probably means nothing by it.
100%.
He's just so intent on his walking. He's like, maybe if we took a step back and we were a little bit kinder to one another, and we looked at each other's perspective of, oh, actually, who knows? When you go for your local coffee order at Starbucks today, and someone's a bit dismissive, I mean, there's so many more things that are going on in their life as opposed to working in Starbucks. They're in touch with this isn't the case, but their mum could be dying, and all they're thinking about is getting back home. So it's a really great perspective that you've shared there that I didn't formulate well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm working on a book. I've been working on this book for a long time, but the title of it's called "Half the World's on Acid." That's the title of the book, and I've been doing research on this. I have no formal, just a lot of empirical data and a lot of working with people across the globe and all the people that I meet. And there's two halves of the book. The first half of the book says, this is the concept, going back to what you were just talking about, is that I could put 1,000 people in a movie theater, right? And we could put a movie on, and I can make an argument that not one person's watching the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're seeing the same thing, but you're not watching the same thing. You're watching it through your current attitude, your current, what's happening in your life, your history, your perceptions, your experiences. And I'll never know really what movie you're watching, right? Because I'm watching it through my experiences and history and my current attitude and what's happening in my life and all the things that are unfolding. And so that goes back to, if I can I'll never understand the exact movie that you're watching, but if I can understand it to a level that helps me walk with you and helps me better make a connection to work better together, that's what truly drives it. So that's the whole perception versus perspective. Second half of the book, though, does a complete 180 and says, that being said, there are probably 8 to 9 human characteristics that are very predictable, that if you can lean into these, you have a higher probability of setting yourself up for stronger working relationships and better outcomes working with those people that you work with.
I'm with you. So books is a topic that I love, and I'm religious. I read every day. I've got a note. It's around this date 5 years ago. It's the day I started reading 10 pages every single day. I know that you've got this book in the works, which I'll be curious to learn more about afterwards. You've got Winning the Money Game, and you've got P.E.P.P, preparation, execution, persistence, patience.
Yep.
I haven't done much research into what P.E.P.P, I haven't done any research into. So for someone who is ignorant like me, can you expand upon P.E.P.P and what I would get out of that book? And it sounds like that's a tactical formula that you've worked into for a period of time, maybe using the organizations that you've worked in. So what does that look like?
Yeah. So P.E.P.P was a book that I think it's 2008, 2009. I can't remember exactly when it came out. It was a book that preparation, execution, persistence, and patience. That's what it is. It's really a formula for, to me, it's a formula for success, and really it's a framework, right? Anything that I go into, how do I prepare, right? How do I execute? How do I persist? How do I have patience as I go through this? That might be an organizational change. That might be a personal development. That might be a skill or a habit that I want to build. I mean, it takes those dynamics. And so I wrote that book for really just a broad audience. And, candidly, I haven't done much with the book. It was more of a business card back in the day. But I still think that those principles, I pull out, that book every once in a while. And, I still garnish information from it, and I still learn from it, which is interesting because I'm reading my own words. But I think it's a strong framework and foundation on how to A, get started, B, manage through and stay persistent, but also understand that, a lot of times results, especially for entrepreneurs, talking about young entrepreneurs, I always say that when you start something, whether you start a business, whether you start a new revenue arm, whether you create a new product, a new service, whatever it is, my good friend Adam Carroll, he's taught me this. It's called the 3 times rule. It typically takes 3 times as long, 3 times the effort, and 3 times the money to get done. And so that's where the patience comes, because a lot of people will quit too early. A lot of people will not have the fortitude to stay through it. So that patience piece, I think, is a strong anchor to the foundation that allows you to stay the course. If it's truly the right, I'm not saying we shouldn't make mid-course adjustments. I'm saying if it truly is the right course, to stay the course, to get past kind of the danger zone and hit that critical mass where you begin to see all the fruits of your labor really begin to unfold in the results that you're looking to get from that venture.
The 3 times rule that you mentioned is something that I've voiced for years. And I don't know why I came up with the concept, where I came up with it, but I always say to myself, whatever I want to achieve in life, wherever I want to get to, it will take me 3 times longer. If I want to lose weight and I set myself the goal of 3 months, typically it depends on how hard you push, but it would take 6 to 9 months in
Right.
business. The goals, and I write down my goals for the year, and I routinely I do a quarterly review myself within my business, and I look at the goals that I've set. And it's probably a modern day phenomenon, but it's something in our brains where we think we can get stuff done in a really short space of time. And we realize once we get into the thick of things that I remember seeing a graph, I can't remember exactly what it was. I have it on my phone and I remember studying it, but shows that when an entrepreneur starts a business, they go through an emotional dip. They realize that things are way harder than what they are. And then eventually they get to a point where they realize actually can see a bit of the light at the end of the tunnel. And then that's where the growth happens.
Right.
And I think this is why so many newfound entrepreneurs fail within the first year, because they're expecting to maybe transition out of a job where everything's stable. And the thing is with jobs are very linear. Your earning does not drop. It typically, let's say you're earning $3,000 a month, you earn that for 6 months, you get a promotion, you get up to $3,200. And then I think with the working world and the way how the modern era of society is engineered, is that we're told by schools and governments and societies that things go like this, when in reality, we know through experience that you have fluctuations, and a lot of things such as your mood, your energy, affect how well you do. And we never take that into account. We just think we're going to do something, and in 3-6 months' time, things are going to connect and line up there. I'm curious, away from your books, can't plug your own.
Yeah.
What 3 business books would you recommend to a newfound entrepreneur?
I don't know if I am the best when it comes to this, because I have some very old staples that I just believe. I believe that if there's 10,000 business books, a lot of them have the same principles, right? So the first thing I will say is connect to the ones that you connect with, right? So somebody might be saying the exact same thing. It might just be in a different way, or it might pique your interest. So to connect to those things. But I have staples like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is a staple for me. I had a chance to work for the Dale Carnegie organization before I started my own organization. So How to Win Friends and Influence People is another one. And then another one, which is a less known by Napoleon Hill, but Outwitting the Devil. Have you ever read that one? Outwitting the Devil. I'm telling you, it's something that was so controversial. He didn't publish it. It wasn't published, I think, until like 2008. And so long after he passed away and all his family passed away. But it's called Outwitting the Devil, and it is a conversation with the devil. And it's just about how the devil manipulates kind of society and us to kind of get things on our side, and how he uses some of the things that we think are not the devil. And so those 3, and I know that they're not necessarily business books like Freakonomics or anything like that, but I just believe that like Think and Grow Rich and the principles that Napoleon Hill laid out, how to win friends and influence people, outweighing the devil. I think those three will give you any type of framework and avenue and foundation to continue to stay the course. Let me go back to something that you said earlier really quick, just to kind of finish that point, because these books touch on those things, is that you're right about that dip. And we call that dip kind of the danger zone, because it's easy now in that dip to begin to question everything. Right. But how do you stay the course? And another thing that Vision Lakiani, who runs a company called Mind Valley, another thing that he said was, and I buy into this 100%, is that new entrepreneurs totally overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, but they truly underestimate what they can achieve in 3 years. So he always challenges, and we do too. We always challenge kind of the people that we're working with to craft the 3-year vision, not the 1 year, right? Craft the 3 year, because it's almost like paint the picture. You have a camera and it's 3 years from today. What's happening? It's not the 12. Now you can back into what do you have to do in the first 6 months to move yourself forward, but it's really about setting those expectations. Because back to the books now, the first thing is, the first thing that Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich is having a definite chief aim of purpose, right? And if you have that chief aim of purpose, it's not easy. Nothing's easy. It's easier to stick around when you go through those dips. But when you set wrong expectations, like, in the first 6 months, I'm going to make X amount of dollars and we're going to have X amount of clients and we're going to sell X amount of widgets, that's when you really begin to, those expectations, when they're not set realistically, or you're not giving yourself that long-term play, that's when it's easy to begin to question and things just tend to crumble. So again, long answer to a short question, but those 3 books, I think I read a lot of different books. I'm like you, but those things, Joe, I probably revisit once a quarter, and I might not read the thing from cover to cover, but I'm always going back in there looking for those nuggets, those reminders, and those things that I need to begin to continuously implement and show up in my life.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. And I remember reading How to Win Friends and Influence People probably back in 2019. And that's really when I started to become a bit of a bookworm. And I've read it once since then, but it was a previous podcast. I think the last one I shot, we spoke about How to Win Friends and Influence People, but they recommend going over to that book once a year at least. And I think I've got a few books that I can just pull out, and I read quite a lot on my laptop right now, just while I travel. But it's always, you just want books. And sometimes what I do is I'll listen to YouTube summaries of the books again, because it just refreshes my mind a little bit. And sometimes you forget the tactics. I think one point you've made, and to give a summary of the books that you've selected here, what I find is a lot of entrepreneurs, they're looking for all of the tactics. Whereas what you've kind of mentioned there, in my view, is you've mentioned the mindset.
Yeah.
It's the mindset that you need to adopt, because going to war, if we use war as an analogy for business, it isn't about, you need to flank down the left to get to your enemy, but it's knowing how fast to flank down the left and why you're flanking down the left. And I think where a lot of people go wrong when they're starting out is they'll use a source like YouTube to find all of this literature and knowledge from someone, but they don't understand why they're applying it. And right. I think for the most successful entrepreneurs that I've worked with and I've seen, they take that step back and they want to understand why, because it's kind of like taking stabilizers off the bike. If you can ride a bike with stabilizers, great. But if you take those stabilizers off, it's a completely different physical dynamic. And if you don't understand why the bike operates in its motion through the mechanics of it, then you're bound to fall over. And then you fall over 2-3 times and you look at yourself and you say, I've got all of these scratches. It's really not worth it. And that's where I feel a lot of people bow out of the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I 1,000, I couldn't agree with you more. I believe that we could give an entrepreneur 1,000 skill sets, but if he or she doesn't have the right mindset, it's not built on stable ground. It's not built on a strong foundation. It really starts with mindset. Then you layer your tool kit with the right skills to show up at the right time. But I agree. I could say more. I could bore you to death with the details, but I honestly agree. It all has to do with mind. Another one, speaking of mindset, again, an old one, but a good one, is Dr. David J. Schwartz, The Magic of Thinking Big. That thing is just packed with mindset and packed. And People think that some of this stuff is woo woo shit. I honestly, I'm living proof. Like, I'm not that talented, right? I'm really not. And again, I have my flaws. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm a huge work in progress, but I honestly believe that my mindset and my approach and the way I show up with gratitude and compassion and understand, perspective of people, I believe it's just allowed me things that, a lot of people maybe just dream about.
If you were to self-reflect, where do you think that approach of abundance has been born from, where it's come from?
I think it was from Zig. It was from my mom. My mom and dad were entrepreneurs. I think that it was really, and I was around a lot of entrepreneurs, Joe. And I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't realize how grateful or how special it was to be around a network that my dad just kind of surrounded himself with, where they had the growth mindset, they had the abundance mindset. I heard somebody say the other day, and I don't want to take it, but I kind of have the mindset of and I think it was. It's his name slipping me. If I said it, everybody would know who he was. But it was always kind of the abundance mindset, not kind of a scarcity mindset or even a poor is me concept. Like, every time something happened, I remember my dad would always, and I got pissed in the beginning, but he would always position it in the positive, right? But it's really, really helped me. Anyway, the guy said, going back to that guy, and again, I can't remember his name. He said, if I order a medium rare steak in a restaurant and it comes back burnt chicken, who gives a shit? I'm going to eat it. Like, I'm just going to eat it. I'm not going to throw it back. I'm not going to say, woe is me. I'm not going to say anything. So it's just an opportunity of just taking in what happens to you and dealing with it in a way that allows that continued growth and not letting things really, the external factors bug you, but it's all kind of that internal mindset and that abundance growth that I think allows you to continue to manage through some of the BS that comes at you in life.
So well said. You've mentioned a lot about networking, putting yourself in the right environments, adding value to people. And I think that it's something that a lot of people struggle to define. They don't know if they're being too salesy or too pushy. So for you, what could you recommend to someone who's thinking, I really want to do well by people. I'm not in this for self-interest. Sure, money is a byproduct of adding value, but is there anything you could recommend to someone who's thinking, hey, I want to get my foot in the door. I want to provide as much value to someone so they know that I'm here and I'm serious and I want to give.
Here's my whole philosophy on growing your network. And you mentioned it earlier too. It's like, you want to add that value. And I believe in the law of reciprocity. I just really do. I believe that what you throw out there in life, is going to show back up. And again, this goes back to my good friend, Adam Carroll. He's a mentor of mine. He sits on my personal board of directors. He's been since 25 years now. He taught me a framework about networking a long time ago that I still live into today. It's called networking power. Okay. Power stands for providing opportunities while establishing relationships. So providing opportunities while establishing relationships. And what he meant by that is authentically and sincerely now, not manufactured bullshit type of stuff, authentically and sincerely providing opportunities. Like, if I wanted to grow my network and build a relationship with you, how do I provide opportunities to Joe, right, that are beneficial to Joe? How do I introduce Joe to people that could potentially be on his podcast? How do I introduce Joe to people that's going to help continuously increase his business? And really just planting those seeds, not because I want it to come back to me. I just know it will if I authentically show up. And I don't know how it will. I just know it will. So providing opportunities while establishing relationships. So while I'm doing that, I'm establishing relationships. And that law of reciprocity is just a natural thing in life that just shows up. So that's the framework that I've always used. And it's served me very, very well.
So well said. And I know for you that talent, human resources is at the core, the heart of what you believe is the best business philosophy. You have the right people around you. You don't need to micromanage. You don't need to make sure that things are getting done. You have the trust in the people there. Talking about how you've got talent there, and more so, and we've gone on so many tangents, and I'm fascinated based on what you've said. Looking at innovation, artificial intelligence, in the next 12, 18 months, Where do you see the market going for AI, and how do you think you're best utilizing it for yourself and the Carden group?
Yeah, we're touching the surface. I mean, we are in the infancy stages of this thing. I do think that AI is going to continuously be a major player in the way people operate their business. And I do believe that people that are quick to adopt or at least get curious with it, like I mentioned earlier, are going to win the game. And people that are going to potentially resist it or maybe be scared of it or afraid of it, I believe that they're going to be behind the eight ball when it really gets mainstream. I think that here's what I believe about AI for our business. What we're trying to create for each one of our team members is an AI buddy or an AI partner. And what I mean by that is, like for our social media, instead of hiring another social media content person or a graphic designer or somebody who writes code or somebody who, maybe does a lot of post and video, right? Instead of hiring those people, how do we create an AI partner that can do all those things? And that might mean that like Brooke, who kind of heads up our social media, that might mean she has 4 or 5 AI platforms that can do all those jobs and roles versus putting that stuff on payroll or outsourcing that stuff. For my project leads who are leading the projects out there, they might have a different suite of AI tools that is their AI buddy or their AI partner. My operations manager, Lindsay, who runs kind of the entire business behind the scenes, she might have a different set of AI tools for her AI, buddy or AI partner. I don't know. We're learning what those tools are. We're learning how to leverage those tools. And again, we're just scratching the surface, and we're finding that there's more and more in the market every single day. And there's more and more tools that are trying to be a one size fits all. So maybe ultimately there's this one mega tool that will do everything for you. So that's how we're leveraging it. Even from like being able to, fathom or wave or being able to take notes or Opus clips on how to, edit videos or P.E.P.P, which is how to write copy. And, there's all these different things out there. There's Blaze, which is your social media posts and writing your email scripts and your email campaigns and all that different type of stuff. And I'm not trying to promote any of them. I'm just saying those are some of the things that we're looking at. And chat GPT was obviously kind of the original thing that people leaned into, but there's so much more out there. So I think that's going to benefit us huge when we can create the right AI tools for the right team member that allows them to be more productive. And not that I'm trying to get rid of human bodies. I'm just trying to potentially reallocate and reposition the way that they see it. So we might not have net new payroll because we can, outsource it to AI, but I'm not trying to get it where, there's only one person and I'm doing everything. That's not what I'm trying to do. We're trying to maximize it with a human element, but also an AI partner or buddy that allows that person to be way more efficient, way more effective. It can do things in days versus months. That's one. I think the second thing for us, and not that I'm trying to become an AI consultant, but I think we are ahead of the game with a lot of our clients. So when our clients start adopting it, I think that would be just another value add above and beyond the scope of work that we do to help potentially, Sherpa them and hold their hand through some of the things that they're doing with AI for their businesses.
Mm-hmm. I think AI is just an enabler, and it's there to make businesses and organizations more efficient. And fundamentally, there's always going to be collateral damage whereby it's people who don't provide enough value. For me, it's a case of the people who provide enough value to teams, organizations. They're not the ones who are going to be chauffeured out.
Right.
AI is going to be there to expand their roles, make them more valuable. And the thing is, with artificial intelligence, it's only as good as the inputs that you give it.
Right.
So it's about what you put into it, which really makes its essence. With that, looking at the organization across the board, do you have a very set, clear roadmap for what you want the team to be doing, and how involved are they using it on a day-to-day basis?
We're adopting it every day. I will tell you, I'm comfortable enough to tell you that with this stuff, we're yet to know what the hell we're doing. I'm confident enough to tell you I'm going to figure it out in one way, shape, or form. So literally, we just had a meeting yesterday, and I told the team, I said, listen, this might get more confusing, and I might add frustration to you. I know ultimately here's the game plan. I want to make sure that we're leveraging the right tools with the right team members that can help them create more efficiency. It's still messy for us, Joe. We are adopting and using tools on the daily, and we're also potentially we call it, we're in the R&D phase right now. It's like when Jobs, at Apple, when Jobs went to market, he went 0 defections. When Jobs went to market with the product, he wanted 0 defections. But in R&D and research and development phase, he wanted as many defections and as many possible things that could go wrong in that. That's where we're at right now with AI. So we're trying tools and figuring out that, okay, that might not work. We're trying another tool and saying, okay, that one's a good one. We're trying another tool and saying, well, that does the same thing as this tool. So we're kind of in the R&D phase right now to hopefully come out when we're ready and really ready to launch internally. We have kind of that 0 defection mindset. Defections.
Yeah,
So that's where I'm at.
I think that's the best way to approach things, and it's essentially throwing spaghetti at the wall. And you can do that all internally in your own house. It's just don't open the door for other people to
Right.
see that, and it just allows you to evolve and just really hone in to get that best product and have that MVP ready and waiting for your customers and your clients. Chad, it's been a pleasure. What's next for you, and where can people find you?
Well, you can find us at the cardengroup.com. We also have an online leadership platform called the designleader.com that we add more content to. There's a bunch of free resources there. There's ebooks there. There's a whole online leadership course. We're adding more and more stuff to that every single day. I think you can find us on all the different social platforms. Chad Carden, the Carden Group, if you do that. What's next for us is, I think we're at a little bit of a tipping point with the business. We have a core revenue arm that's been very successful for us, but we're looking at ways as the landscape changes with the AI and everything. How can we continue to add potential services that just enhance our core business, not get away from our core business, but just enhance our business? So that's what we're doing from a business standpoint. I got 4 or 5 different trips coming up in the next 4 or 5 weeks to hopefully impact some clients just all around the States. I think I go to Indianapolis and Houston and New York and Boston. I'm going down to Florida. I'm leaving for Florida tomorrow just to do more impact, man, just to create more impact and see what type of awesome stuff we can make happen.
Chad, it's been a pleasure, and I've learned a lot from you, so thank you.
I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to continuing and following your journey as well.
I appreciate it.